Madam Clerk, will you lead us in the prayer? Pledge, please.
Lord, assist the Holy Spirit of counsel all those who are serving in with authority and responsibilities.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Bottom here. McGee.
Yes.
O'Hara. Present. Swanson.
Present.
Mirabel.
Here. Discussion by council, vote or other action on scheduling a public hearing for the North Smithfield Teachers Association contract. Are we supposed to receive the contract at this time?
I'll make a motion to receive the contract as approved and presented, Mr. President. We'll take two motions. I'll make a motion to set a date. Is that okay, Mr. President?
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah. So I just made that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to receive the contract. Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bottomoli. Yes. Ms. McGee.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Yes. Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mr. Mirabel.
Yes. And now I'll entertain a motion to, for a date, let's have a date first before I entertain that.
So it has 10 days prior, but the budget committee has to review it a week prior to public hearing.
All right, so why don't we hold off and we'll let the budget committee do the thing and then we'll set a date. Okay? All right, so we're not going to take any action on the second. Did they discuss that with you? Did they discuss that with the, if you guys could take a look at the teacher contract for us? Nobody did? Would you be willing to do that?
It's in the town charter.
Thank you. It's in the charter that, it's required it, but I'm sorry, I thought you were aware. We'll set up, you can set up at your convenience to meet. Continuation of public hearing regarding 2018-2019 budget. Is there a motion to continue the public hearing?
So moved, Mr. President.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Bottomoli. Yes. Mrs. McGee.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara. Yes. Mr. Swanson.
Yes.
Mr. Mirabel.
Yes. Mark Lavasier. Come on up to the podium, please.
Mark Lavasier, 30 Winchester Ave, North Smithfield, Rhode Island. First off, thank you. I know that for the town council and all the work that the budget committee has done, this is it's a big undertaking, and I do appreciate all of it. I've been a teacher for 13 years and have coached at the collegiate level for half that time. However, a few years back, my oldest son was diagnosed with a rare autoimmune disorder, and it became necessary for me to give up coaching. Couple that with the birth of my youngest son, it became necessary for me to take a leave of absence from teaching as well. Being a stay-at-home father has changed my outlook on life in ways that I never could have imagined. This is relevant because recently Mr. Ezlowski made mention in an email to the town that those who spoke in support of fully funding the school department's budget were just part of a special interest group. At first, this made me mad. How dare my thoughts as a resident be minimized in such a way just because I served my community by being an educator? Then I realized that he was right. I am part of a special interest group, and my special interest is providing the best opportunities for my children. As I have said before, this is why we moved to North Smithfield in the first place. Last week, Mr. Beauregard and Mr. Lombardi were discussing how we got here in terms of funding needs. We got here because over the last 10 years and beyond, all of our leaders have been fighting and distrusting one another instead of working together. There have been moments where past town council and school committee were nearly coming to blows due to disagreements. The teachers' union declared a vote of no confidence on the former superintendent. The town's budget The before-mentioned superintendent was picking fights with members of the town's budget committee, and so on. Decisions were made based on looking good instead of what was right for the betterment of the town. Thus, taxes barely went up over the last decade, and the school department has essentially been level funded when inflation is taken into account. After years of he said, she said, and quid pro quo, our leaders have finally begun to work together effectively. I thank you for that. Everyone seems to agree that CTEs and charter schools are the biggest drain and hurdle for our school department to overcome. This issue was also worsened because our previous town administrator served on the board of a charter school and must have realized that this could be a drain on our school department and thus the town that was served. In the present, all of the craziness seems to have subsided, and our leaders on the town council, school committee, town administrator, and department leaders have all been working together better than I thought had been possible given the previous climate. But it seems that the talks of funding and needs for taxes have scared some folks into distrust again. After you properly fund our departments and bring our tax rate up to a logical level for a town of our caliber, I ask that you please continue working together to find solutions to the bigger problems rather than working separately to defend individual positions. You have started doing a great job of that, and I'd like for that to continue. Now is not the time for cutbacks or being scared of the word tax. We are all on the same team right now, and that team needs to provide proper funding to all of its departments, even if that means raising taxes. Once proper funding has been established and programs are in place, then I would like to find creative solutions toward any of the further town problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, please.
No, I'll use my recessed voice, I feel. Can you hear me back there? Wonderful. First of all, this council and the school committee have been kind of calling the kumbaya. Of course, we're underdressed today. Mr. McGee and I do not have our baseball bats on.
That's not true. That's not true. I'm always against you, Paul.
So, we disagree, but it's not on a personal level. Just before, I was talking to Mr. Lombardi, and I wanted some facts, but it wasn't an attack. I've never, this group of members of the school committee work diligently. I'm hoping that I'm not disappointed, that it looks like everything's clear and across, and questions have been answered, and readily. It takes 4 and 5 running around to get it, which is important. Do we care? Absolutely we care. And we know your dedication is there. Sometimes we wish we could give you more, but we'll stretch it and give you as much as we can. There's good years, and there's not so good years. So if we can work our way up, we'll continue working as a team, and I think you'll all agree, working with the members of the school committee, it's not us and them, it's we, because it's for our town. So I thank those who came. I've never seen,
It's been a notable change, like it really, really has.
well, maybe Kumbaya is good. As long as we don't sing, we'll be all right. But thank you for your comment, and it means a lot.
James Lombardi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Mr. Administrator, members of the Budget Committee. I also have school committee member, Mr. Jones, Mrs. Johannes, Vice Chair, Mrs. Mayo, and Secretary, Mrs. Bala, with us. Let me start by saying that I understand and respect all of the recommendations in this room. There are a list of competing interests, and you have a tough decision tonight. I'm sure there's going to be people angry at you no matter what you decide. I'm here to ask for more than the 2%. At 3%, we can settle contracts, we can run our departments with minimum layoffs. At 2%, we would have to start laying off key personnel. I'm just asking you to consider more funds, and I can be more specific if you need me to be. And let me just say a few more things. You know, one of the questions that was raised was the efficiency of the school system. And I just want to say that one of the reasons I picked the superintendent was because of his technology background. We cannot compete at the same pace without the help from technology. So one thing I will commit to you is that I will commission a report on trying to find additional efficiencies in the schools. Not saying that the superintendent has not done that, which he has, but we can always do better. If anybody wants me to talk about specifics, I'd be more than happy to do that, or answer any questions.
I'd like to know how much we spend on expendable workbooks in the elementary schools. And most of the contracts, I believe, you have to buy them for 5 years for these companies. And I'd like to know if they're really being utilized.
Okay.
Because that's a big expense if a child's going to be sent home with 4 or 5 pages ripped out.
I agree. Superintendent, you're going to talk about, Ms. Arnold?
The workbook's actually
Wait,
created.
identify, if you can identify.
Yeah, if you could just come on up. Let's get you on the record.
Because these questions come to me, and
Claire Arnold, Assistant Superintendent. It depends on the program, but you're most likely speaking of the math workbooks. And the math workbooks actually come free with a purchase of the textbooks. And they give us 5 years free workbooks. And those are consumables, the students can write in them. We don't pay more for that. They come with the whole package. It's the textbooks that are most
we don't have
expensive.
textbooks for that.
Oh, I'm thinking of the high school, so you're thinking of the
They have hot public, we used it in the former math series, but we don't, as a reference book, but we don't with these, it's purely consumable, and they're not being utilized. I don't think they're, fourth, I know the 5th grade, I use both, and everyone gets 2. That's what I was given and I used. But I don't know who recommended it. I know it wasn't the 5th grade teacher, and my grandson came home with a nice book we can use this summer. So I just like to know, if we have 3 more years of that, what, to me, that's a loss. We're in the minus right there.
So when you adopt a program, it's a 5-year. We don't order them every year. They literally just show up at our door. So we've already bought and paid for a 5-year subscription. And it's a subscription, really what you pay for. It's the teacher's editions that are the most expensive. It's the online capabilities and textbooks. I don't know, like right off the top of my head, any specifics on that. Other.
I just wondered because to me that's a lot of money. And if we waste where we can be spending, it would be money better spent. And I'm not criticizing you, but I just, wondered, because I only found out at the end of the year I was the only one using it. Talk about living on an island. So I just like to know, and I don't even know how much they cost us, but they had to cost a few bucks. Nothing's cheap.
I have a question.
While you're up here, and Ms. Lahora, we had a meeting a few weeks ago and about the solar issue, and I told the audience, they had a room full of people, and I'd like to say the same thing that I told them, I like to tell everybody here, is that regardless of how many people they put in a room, there's 11,000 other people in this town that we have to think about, okay? We just can't think about the people in the room. Can you do it we're getting 4%. I get about 80 postcards, give us 4%. Can you do it for less? Can you do it for less? 4% is a big ask, but not from us. It's a big ask from the people, the residents.
And we agree with you. I mean, we're not disagreeing with you. We know you have a lot of competing interests. I worked with the superintendent today, and we went to a bare bones minimum, and I think that, as I mentioned, 3% is doable without major layoffs. And I
Maybe, so there will be some layoffs?
we would be laying off in that situation an instructional assistant, I believe. But that's something that we can live with. The rest of our
Unless
programs.
you're that person, then it's
Well, I guess so. But I mean, better than, if we go lower than that, we're
So
going to
that's the
continue
only
to go.
one instructional assistant?
That's, to the best of my knowledge, that's where we're going.
So there won't be any with custodial? It'll just be that one?
We will not lay off custodians.
Well, I don't know about, I'm very concerned about that. On the elementary level, I believe it's the kindergarten, they're getting some really difficult cases where I believe if they may be one, you're going to need a one-on-one. Okay, I think that.
No. May I just interrupt you? I'm sorry. Instructional assistants, not for, what we're going to do is we have some federal funding, federal or state funding, but not our funding,
Okay.
that we are going to put in teacher assistants, and that's the wrong word, right? Instructional assistants in the pre-K, kindergarten. Okay.
Is it K?
And so we are doing that. We found some money.
Great. I was very worried about that.
We have the highest, well, we have one of the highest, I'm not saying highest, one of the highest kindergarten sizes in the state. And we just had the one teacher there. So we did find the funds, non-local, to pay for instructionals.
That, you know, that, I don't know if it makes the teachers happy, but I was very worried about that class.
All right, so the answer is yes, you can do it. So 3?
Absolutely.
You're saying 3?
Now, let me, and then if we can do it at 3%, and if there's any way that instead of using the $50,000 in capital, put that into the regular budget, so it's budget neutral. Take $50,000 out of the capital for the school, put it in our regular line item budget over and above the 3%, and then reduce the capital item by $50,000. And you wouldn't be reducing capital because we have $50,000 in our surplus this year that we will commit to capital, so there won't be any reduction of capital.
So just to be clear though, so is that 3% plus that?
Yes.
And that money's already allocated to the schools, so it says in the form of capital.
Correct.
Anybody have any other questions, Mr. Lombardi? Not at this point, but so we might call you back up if that's okay?
Absolutely. Could I give you the number that we're looking for?
Yes, please.
It's 26, now this number may look like it goes up higher than what your budget says, but that's because there's an adjustment, and I think Cynthia can help me with this, on the state aid. So it's $26,169,209, and that includes the extra $50,000, which you can reduce capital by 50.
Can you repeat that one more time?
$26,169,209.
That's including the extra 50,000?
Yes. So you
Will be deducted from.
you remove $50,000 out of capital, and then look for the balance.
And 1%, just to be clear, 1%, we discussed this as $190,000, is that what we said?
Yes.
1%, just so everybody understands where it was sent.
Of the local appropriation.
1%, if we're talking about 4%, 3%, 2%, 1% is $190,000. So we're clear on that number?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Nagel, do you have a question, Mr. Lombardi?
Mr. Lovato. So,
You can come on up.
Thank you. Just a quick question, Mr. Lombardi. So if 3% and 50,000 is approved, Are we going to play the, let's cut athletics game